Hey, y'all, and welcome back to the Restaurant Incubator, where it's my mission to help you save time and money with your restaurant project. My name is Brandon Sharp. I'm your host. As an executive chef, I earned 7 Michelin stars, and now as a chef owner and entrepreneur, I have 3 restaurants here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The guests on today's program, if you've been to Napa Valley in the last 25 years, you have probably eaten one of his burgers, and if you have been to a grocery store in the last 10 years, you have definitely seen his name on wine labels. So Joel Gott joins us on the program today, and he is going to talk about how to scale from one restaurant to many and how to deal with the swings of the tourist season. Sometimes the constraint on his business is supply. Sometimes the constraint on his business is the demand in the slower months. So we're going to talk with him about how he goes back and forth between those two things. And we'll also cover branding aspects, how his brand tells a story of a luxury experience, even though he sells a commodity product like cheeseburgers. So enjoy today's Restaurant Incubator with Joel Gott. Stay humble, stay hungry. We're back on the Restaurant Incubator podcast, and today we've got Joel Gott with us. We're honored to have him. So, Joel, tell us who you are and where you work, please.
Thanks, Chef, for having me on. Joel Gott, based in Napa Valley. We've got 7 restaurants in the San Francisco Bay Area, all under our name, Gott's Roadside. We're a quick service, call it a hamburger stand, but, a little bit deeper than that, but everything's served on a paper plate and ordered at a counter, and you pick it up at the counter.
Yes, and so the original Gott's Roadside, I ate there for the first time, I think back in like March of 2000. And having lived in St. Helena, many times I go by and there's just a line of guests waiting to order, snaking all the way around the seating area. But it's a tourist destination. So are there certain times of the year that you are constrained by the supply and other times that you're constrained by the demand? And if so, how do you balance that?
Well, like a lot of restaurants, right? It's a combination for us of local support, tourist support. So, being able to have the two is really what makes the place run for us. So, during the winter, January, February is probably our slowest time, not probably, but is our slowest time of the year. So, our volume will be down by, 30 to 40%, whereas compared to the big months of somewhere like August, September, October, which in wine country is harvest time, and that's when we see the most tourists, right? We'll do, crazy numbers, but we keep the same staff all year. And so for us, it's a balancing game where our labor's way over in Q1 and way under in Q3. So to us, it's the ability to take both is how the business works.
Okay, good. That's a good lesson. Well, when you first took over God's Roadside, back then it was Taylor's Refresher. And so, going from what it is now to back to what it was then, when you were trying to establish this brand, were you looking at the ground right in front of you saying, okay, we got to get to this weekend and make good burgers this weekend? Or were you looking at a horizon that was much farther out?
I think I owe it to you and the listener to explain just a little bit deeper. So when my brother Duncan and I started that in 1999, we were actually not that interested in the restaurant. It was a restaurant that had been there for, I don't know, roughly 40 or 50 years at the time, called Taylor's Refresher. The property came as a byproduct, the restaurant came as a byproduct to the property. And what we wanted was this old carport to create a produce stand. And so the hamburger stand came along with it. And this was in late 1998. We tore it to the ground and then rebuilt it to what we thought it should look like. When we got it, it was like this green and white falling in. The building inspector condemned it on the roof because no structure left. So anyhow, we fast forward, we ended up spending about $400,000 on a remodel. So if you put that in today's dollars, right, it'd be about a $1.2 million project. And we built it up not knowing anything about the restaurant business. At the time, we were mostly in the deli business, and built it up to what we thought it should look like. And we were looking right in front of us. What was the best thing we could put in a little paper boat that we'd be excited to eat? Like, an ahi burger, a burger, Baja tacos. We wanted beer and wine. It was like all these wine country food items that we loved, but we loved the juxtaposition of higher end food in a paper boat.
Hmm.
So fast forward, we open up September 24th, 1999, and it's a way bigger success than we knew what to do with. And we had to learn on the curve. I mean, we were getting blown out of the water. I think we opened up at about $3 million in revenue, and we were probably prepared for about $1 million in revenue. So we learned fast, and we did kind of all the wrong things, but our customers liked the product so much that they, allowed us the flexibility to really grow and age the business in front of their eyes as customers.
Hmm.
And then inside that, 10 years into it, we got sued for the name Taylor's. So we ended up changing the name actually 11 years into the existence. And we thought for sure that was going to kill the business because at that time we had 3 restaurants. I had probably 110 employees. And all I could think about is this, the name was everything. Lo and behold, the name didn't matter. It was this food and the environment and the spaces that we had that really led us to, change the name, got a bunch of bad press in the food world, which killed us. But people came to see what happened.
Hmm.
And then, like all good things get punished one way or another, right? And, it built our business even stronger.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I mean, burgers are, I would qualify burgers, or at least most burgers, as a commodity item. I mean, most Americans have probably had thousands of them, but you're in the business of taking a commodity item and turning it into not a luxury experience, but definitely a premium experience. So, because I'm sure people, bring their friends who haven't been to wine country before. We're going to God's. Yeah, I know it's a burger, but you're going to be blown away. What are some of the touch points of that experience that you feel you're providing to those first timers who are just going to blow their mind, even though it's a cheeseburger?
Well, for us, it's been about having a really large menu so that the
Mm.
Sharp family could show up and maybe there's only one of you that gets a burger. The rest of us get maybe an ahi burger or poke taco,
Uh-huh.
or, a salad or, it's a really large menu, which I don't
Mhm.
recommend to anybody starting with a large menu.
Right.
We grew our way into this thing after 25 years. But if we can entertain all 5 sharps, that's kind of what our model is because the burger eater has friends and family members that won't eat a burger. And then when we get into the
Mhm.
burger, the trend today is smash burger, right? So we're really not equipped to make smash burgers. Although when we can make them, they'd be great, right? But the problem is that you need a lot more griddle space. So the way that we look at the burger to make an elevated experience is number one is beef is most important thing. So we outgrew Nyman Ranch, which was an amazing partner for years. Now we divvy it up between 3 different beef purveyors. No other stuff than whole muscle in it and then fat.
Uh-huh.
We look to the bread being a huge part of the success of how we're able to build it. So we built the burger in a flame grilled burger the way that we thought was the highest in touch we could, which was there's no like, okay, we have secret sauce, but there's no secret to it, right? It's just quality ingredients all the way through. And then it's all the other sides and things that you
Mhm.
can have with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and you can smell those garlic fries down the block. There's no
Sorry.
escaping those. Well, what? So, what the items on the menu that are not the burgers? What's the selection process for those? And what are a couple that like almost made the cut, but somebody vetoed them? Hey, y'all, real quick. I hope that you're enjoying today's interview with Joel Gott. He didn't get to where he is, bringing in how many millions of dollars in revenue every year by not knowing his numbers and by not having a sound business plan. If you are having a bit of trouble getting started with your business plan, with your budgets, click that link in the show notes. It will take you to the Restaurant Launchpad Starter Kit for just 27 bucks. You can see everything that I do when it comes to building out a business plan. You'll see templates, you'll see examples, you'll see full scale models of the things that you will need to do to be taken seriously by bankers, lenders, landlords, investors. All right, back to the show.
Well, we have a really talented director of culinary, Jen Redman, and Jen is out of your world, right? High-end dining and Danny Meyer Group and witchcraft and a bunch of stuff. And so
Mhm.
we almost have too many great items to pick from. But so some of the big winners right now for us are like Vietnamese chicken salad is our number one salad, and it just absolutely crushes it. Followed by like a citrus avocado chop salad, because I really believe that in today's world, salad is a really important part of your menu, or maybe you call it a bowl. And
Yeah.
from there, we sell a lot of fish, right? And even though fish is expensive, and we don't make it any cheaper, but poke tacos and Baja style tacos are really big trends. And then we have a really great special selection. So last year, our 25th year, we did a special every month. Right now, we're about a special. This is our 26th year, so we're doing a special every 6 weeks. So we just launched. We're in July, so it's a lobster heirloom tomato BLT club type sandwich. So we love the idea of taking a simple sandwich and going and
Uh-huh.
get really fresh killer lobster and great local bacon and heirloom tomatoes to make something that we think is super interesting. So the menu diversification again is so important for us. And then we've also learned, right, you got to sell, you got to get your ticket average up, right, and make the guest experience complete. We need other things. So we've gotten into we make a lot of milkshakes, right? Of
Mhm.
course, because we're kind of diner themed, but parfaits are a big deal, cookies are a big deal, and then vegetable sides, like, as silly or as simple as, not silly, but as simple as, Brussels sprouts, but really like, Mexican style corn on the cob and things like
Mhm.
that really round out the guest experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about the wine program? What would you, because the wine, I there's always a killer Zinfandel that I have with my burger, and everything. It's not a big wine list, but it is extremely well chosen. So how do you? I mean, I can't imagine the amount of producers, friends, distributors that want to see their wine on your list. How do you choose the wines for Gott's?
So we are as you know, we're also in the wine business, so we're kind of
Yes.
a double-edged sword, right? Um, so yes, we get an overwhelming amount of samples and requests. Our goal is, I want a really well priced by the glass list, because I think one of the flaws in today's dining is drinks have become too expensive, and it kind of disrupts the ability to get a bottle or a glass of wine. So I try to make sure we always have something from $7 to $13 by the glass, and they're all killer stuff. Like the Zin you're speaking of has been on the list forever. Is Turley Zinfandel?
Yeah,
It's their juvenile blend, the younger vine blend. I think it's an amazing glass of wine. It's $12 or $13. But then
that's incredible.
yeah, I love Sauvignon Blanc. So like that is a staple for us. And frosé, right? A lot of times frosé is like some sweet soupy thing, but like we make killer frosé with like, it's balanced and acidic and with really good rosé in it. So I try to have the price points be in that sweet spot of, again, that $7 to $13 range. Something that historically never really worked for us, but we got a lot of credit for, were half bottles.
Yeah,
And post-COVID, half bottles have kind of surged back. So we just released 2 weeks ago a new menu, and we didn't double, but almost doubled the amount of half bottle SKUs. So
wow.
maybe there's this half bottle trend coming back.
Man, yeah, that would be. I would love to see that. That is a hard thing to find. It's hard to find a restaurant that has a great half bottle list, and it's such an amazing way to enjoy more than one wine if you're eating out with somebody else. I love it. Well, to the question, if a new restaurant owner were to approach you and they are selling something that doesn't stand out in terms of the type of offering, if they're selling, I don't know, pizza or burgers or tacos or breakfast food, do you have a simple and elegant answer or advice to them if they were to ask you, how do I stand out in a crowded marketplace?
I would say, we could reference the bear, right? Like food quality, right, matters at the end of the day. So, like, anytime that you can take the food level quality up one, it doesn't have to be more expensive, but the attention to detail, and then the guest experience, right? I really believe that post COVID, I feel as if some of the hospitality has gotten better in the country, and I feel it's more like people want it. The servers and the restaurant staff want it more. So whenever you can make that breakfast or lunch or dinner concept go one level deeper on customer service, that's the little touch points that don't cost much that go so far. And
Mhm.
then on the flip side of that is, when you really care about how things are plated and come out. I mean, I remember at Soul Bar, I was always blown away. You would have room service, catering. Oh, and then on top of it, you'd have a packed pool. And then what your fine dining, you guys would have another 100 seated. And my white chicken would come out with like three little perfect flowers on it. I mean, it's like, it's all those little attentions that details that make the most of it.
Uh-huh. Okay. Agreed. Well, when one goes and sits down at God's, it just feels it always feels just right. There's the grass, there's the picnic tables, there's the umbrellas, there's the burger, there's the shake. And so and it seems simple. And I'm well aware that just because they usually when somebody's really good at something and they make it look easy, it's usually not. And if you were to try to do it yourself, you would screw it up. So I'm wondering what the brand storytelling is like on the marketing side. So on the other side of the guest experience, maybe that's the part of the iceberg that's above the water. But when y'all are in your marketing meetings and you're talking about branding with the team and those sorts of things, what is the language that you're telling about the guest experience? How do you describe it? If you're pitching it to someone who's never heard of your restaurant before.
There's one term we use that I hope some people know, which is kind of this wine country hospitality. Which to us, wine country, there's great wine countries all over the states and country, but wine country hospitality, we're kind of a picnic concept, right? So it's a casual picnic experience, and that's what we're after. And we have a little icon that's a picnic table to try to reinforce that is
Mhm.
us. We're just a casual place that maybe you go to on Sunday after church or, after high school football or whatever it might be. It's a family gathering place where it's casual, comfortable, and picnic-like theme.
Well, when things like storms or COVID or fires or awful things that happen that are beyond your control, what is your message to yourself and to your team when times are uncertain?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we've lived through a couple of them, right? The fires in Napa in 2017
Yeah.
and 2020, disastrous power outages, and then COVID. We're a family run business, right? We have 7 restaurants. We want to continue to grow. We got an amazing team. So it's like everybody, we're in this all together. We got to hunker down, right? You guys all, we think you have a great job. We like what we're doing. So we're in it together. So let's go the extra mile for the customer.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, the customer decides where they want to go, not us.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, when it comes to your managers and leaders,
Mhm.
when you're not only so you go through one round, I'm sure of just vetting their resumes, decide this is who we want to call back, and then this is who we want to interview, and then what specific traits or characteristics of personality or of leadership or of emotional quotient do you look for when it comes to hiring, especially your guest facing managers, and how do you sort of direct your hiring process to achieve those?
Well, the nice thing, Chef, is after all these years, I've taken out, I'm not directly involved in that because those are some worst mistakes, right? Is like,
Yeah.
I go my personal thing is I go by like first experience with somebody. Can they look you in the eye? Are they smiling? Doing all this stuff. What I've learned from my team over the years is they're really good at selecting people that are well-rounded. And we know what
Okay.
we can teach and we can't. So as advice to a new restaurateur, right? If they're guest facing, you've got to get the please and thank yous and the smile. Like that stuff has to be baked in early because it's kind of hard to
Mhm.
train those things. You can train somebody how to read a P&L. You can train somebody how to flip a burger. You can train somebody how to run the dish machine, but it's that core hospitality that is almost baked into people. Now, of course, in all of our hospitality world, we know our friend Danny Myers, right? He can train people to another level or the guest experience and an in and out's a whole nother thing. We're just not big enough for that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's really what we look for.
Okay. Yeah, and even he says something like, they have to be like 51% of the way there. They have to be just beyond the tipping point with the hospitality gene or mentality, or like you said, it needs to be baked in. Well,
What I would,
for an aspiring restaurateur with limited capital, somebody who is a sous chef or a chef de cuisine who's got all the technical skill and the operational know-how to go out on their own. Um, what do you think is the right advice or the right direction you would point them in to attract investors and the right sort of investors and partners the right way? Because that was a stumbling block for me when I came here and was trying to raise money. And I think it is a huge stumbling block for a lot of sous chefs and chef de cuisines.
Man, I think the way that there's the reality and then there's the dream, right? So I think the
Hmm.
reality is you got to find somebody that's a fan of yours, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're a sous chef and you've got a great customer and there's a fan of that restaurant that you're working in and you can build a relationship, that's probably the easiest way to find a network of people that will invest.
Yeah.
No matter what performa you put down, it's only your best guess. And we
Right.
all, especially in the restaurant business, you might never hit that performer. You might blow it out of the water or vice versa. So I think the way to do it is truly the networking game is so important in this world. Everything from the who's who of the restaurants to things like LinkedIn today are so important. You got to build your network so that you can reach out to people for free advice and reach out to people to like, I need a CPA. How do you put a deal together?
Yeah.
How do I find an investor? And, it sounds silly, but that network game sometimes is where a lot of the answers are. And then to have a friend that's already partway there, that's what I was saying. Like, if you've got an admirer in the restaurant that you're already working in. And let's face it, I think you and I both could say that almost all of us restaurateurs want the next generation to be born out of our businesses, right? So,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of times where I'm always trying to push somebody like, if you got a great idea, go and do it.
Mhm.
It takes a few brave people, though, that have to step out and do it on their own.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And yes, I know a lot of sous chefs who have surreptitiously cooked for a regular, on the chef's night off, and give them a full tasting menu and a preview of their future restaurant and so on and so forth, and have found their backers that way. Yeah. Well,
And
what is
hey,
sorry,
Chef,
go
can I
ahead.
just add, I just want to add one thing to it. I would say the worst thing, because I think you and I both at a young age probably didn't ask for enough help. And in today's world, I think it's totally cool to go out and ask people, like
Yeah.
blind email people, call. I mean, the worst you can hear is no. So I
Mhm.
would always put that out there. You
Yeah, no,
admire Danny Myers? Shoot him a note.
yeah, that's a great point, because I mean, this whole podcast and all of this is meant for the next generation to stand on our shoulders. So I couldn't agree more. Well, with both the wine label, all of your wine companies, and with the and with God's Roadside, what is y'all's approach to paid PR and advertising? And with the advent of influencers and that sort of thing, has it changed at all? And how does it differ between the advertising or doing PR for a wine label versus restaurants?
Yeah, so at the winery, right, I should have adopted social media, like everybody more than a decade ago, but I really
Hmm.
didn't because I'm not a social media user.
Hmm.
And so we were always a little shy of it. My name's on the label, so we were a little shy
Hmm.
of like, how do we do that? And now we're playing catch up. So I don't ever recommend being in that role. So on the restaurant side, we have a really great lady named Felicia, and Felicia runs the brand and runs all the
Hmm.
media. And we don't do very much paid influencer media. We might do media. We might do something in San Francisco or like some big group media fest. What we try to do is we try to run our social accounts channels um, with the trends and our food as the number one thing. So,
Hmm.
especially with the food, we have as you guys know, food is beautiful, right? And so it's easy to create content. So if you follow us, you can see that's what we lead with. And then we repost our guest reactions to it. And it's amazing how that works. And in the old days, I mean, remember this, Chef? Remember when like your mailing list was your big deal and then it was your
Yeah.
email list?
Uh,
As archaic as that sounds, in the restaurant world, a lot of times your clientele is like, in their 40s, 50s, 60s. So they're still reading their email. And so those
yeah.
email lists, as archaic as somebody will tell you in the social media world, they really produce.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that was an interesting takeaway, an accidental takeaway that we had from COVID, and so we found out that not only for takeout, but then also for reservations after COVID had passed and the restrictions had released, was that by far we got far more conversions and bookings from our email list than we ever did from anything on social media. So yeah, that's a real thing. When you are looking for, and when it comes to inspiration from the outside business world, other podcasts, other leaders, other, books or things like that, who do you look to?
In the food world, man, and I think there's just so much good stuff out there. Lucky enough, one of our kids lives in Manhattan, so I'm in New York several times a year, and I love going and seeing. I mean, I was there 2 weeks ago and saw three bakeries that I don't know how they could pull off what they were doing, but that gave me the inspiration. I love some of so I want to answer your question directly. So, physically going and seeing a lot of restaurants in Southern California, Miami area, New York, and Chicago. And then
Mhm.
on top of that, my Instagram is filled with restaurants, food photos, right? And mountain
Yeah.
bike wipeouts. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so I end up I follow as much food as I can. I love the trends, and I like seeing if you follow James Beard Awards, right? Was it 3 weeks ago they were in for the awards in Chicago, and there was more food news out of that just on social media than I've ever seen, and I
Yeah.
find that stuff inspiring. And then the last thing I would say is what I love is getting to SoCal again or New York, one of the other cities, and just getting my hands on new food that I haven't seen before. Some of the
Mhm.
sandwich and bowl culture right now is out of this world.
Cool. Cool. Well, what about outside the food world, larger business world? Any inspirations or great business books you read lately or anything like that?
A lot of what I've been up to is more podcasts. So
Yeah.
I've been blown away by some of the interviews that are out there. There's some even the New York Times has some really good business leaders that I think are really fun to listen to, talk about how they manage and finance leaders. Did you ever listen to Prof G? I say it with a little give because he's all
Yeah. Yeah. I have. I have. He's hilarious and incredibly insightful. Yeah.
I would, as a new restaurateur, right? The point of this podcast, right,
Uh-huh.
is I would listen to his financial podcast. Again, it's Prof G, because what
Yeah.
I like about Scott Galloway is his name is he's very thoughtful about the next generation and how to manage your business, people you should think about, and then that opens up a lot of U-turns and whys in a road for you to go and find other people that are really smart to
Yeah.
listen to or to read about.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's it. I haven't. It's been. I stopped. I go hot and cold on podcasts. I haven't listened to his in about 3 months or so. But he usually starts his with an unbelievably dirty joke, like
Yes.
completely unrepeatable. But there, but he's great. He's
Yeah,
great.
the
Well,
worst dad jokes.
yeah. Last question: how many coats of red paint are on those red picnic tables by now?
So what Chef's talking about is behind the original restaurant, right? The one in San Elena, it's been there 25 plus years. We have picnic tables and those have evolved. Over the years, we've replaced that lawn in 25 years, probably 20 times. And then every picnic table gets painted every year. And there's a whole program to the picnic table painting because they're part of the iconic look and stuff. But can I just add on to this?
Yeah.
So one of the things, right, since we have seven stores, right, or seven restaurants, it's been really good for us to learn like what seating works and what doesn't. So
Hmm.
as if you're a new restaurateur out there and you're lucky enough to be building something from scratch, make sure you go and sit with your tape measure in a bunch of your favorite restaurants and figure out like, how wide is that table? How narrow is it? How close do I have to sit to someone? Is a common table good? Man, the more you can steal off of what's already built and photographs, the better.
Oh
Because that's
man,
going to matter so much.
1,000%. Measure the distance from the seat to the floor, from the top of the seat to the floor, from the top of the seat to the bottom of the table, from all that stuff. Yeah, I've gotten that. I'm sure I'll get that wrong a few more times, but I've gotten it wrong many times so far.
And for some reason, if you're building a picnic table, email me and I'll give you the dimensions. It's far easier after 25 years of building on what works and doesn't.
Okay, all right, you heard it here. Um, Joel, it's been great catching up, man. Anything else that you want the aspiring restaurateurs to know?
Man, I think you just got to gamble at a young age. And that's the best part about this country, right? We get freedom to gamble with things like, our own concepts of what we want. And, if you look at what's super cool out there, people are pushing the limits and it's fun to do things that other people aren't. And, I think it's just as long as you care about the food and the people, you're going to win.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks again for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Jeff, thank you so much.
All right, take care. Hey, y'all, real quick before you bounce. We don't accept paid sponsorships. We don't accept ads. The only way this podcast grows is by you sharing it. So please, if you enjoyed today's episode, send it to 2 friends in the restaurant industry who you think have a bright future. Thank you. Stay humble, stay hungry.